What is up, Only Playbook? This is Shovit. I do not, unfortunately, have Sweetcar and Shishot here with, but I've got an exciting episode for you guys here today. We've got fantasy implications that we need to talk about. Week 12 just ended, and really there's like 2 or 3 more weeks of fantasy football left, so we've got a lot to talk about regarding all the games that happened. And then at the very end, we've got a waiver wire watch list that you guys need to listen to. Hey, let's win out the rest of the season and get you guys in fantasy playoffs. All right, without further ado, let's go ahead and kick it right off. First game that I want to talk about, is Pittsburgh at Cleveland. Cleveland comes out with the win in 1924, and Nick Chubb, man, 2 touchdowns. That was incredible to see. It was a weird game, weird snowy white game. Jalen Warren gets a touchdown. He's a guy that I've actually been starting. And I know that it's a split carry between Najee and Warren, but there's any given Sunday or Thursday or Monday, Jalen Warren can get you a touchdown. So he's been staying in my lineups as a guy that you want to continue. If you need that second running back there on your fantasy team, that's a guy you got to go out and start. And Njoku could have had a touchdown, dropped a touchdown catch, gets a 2-point conversion. Next up, we've got Kansas City at Carolina. Man, did Kansas City come out with a win just barely with that huge run from Patrick Mahomes. And if you're a Chuba Hubbard owner, he's not threatened. That Jonathan Brooks guy, the rookie coming back from an ACL injury, not a problem for Chuba. So he's going to be continue to go in your lineup. They recently paid him as well, right? So you don't have to worry if you have Chuba Hubbard for now until things change. Keep him in your lineups. Noah Gray is another guy that you need to also look out for. He did get a touchdown last game as well. I think 2 touchdowns last game. And David Moore for the Carolina Panthers led the team with 10 targets, 6 catches, and 81 yards. Another guy that you need to keep on your radar, David Moore and Noah Gray. But outside of that, Chief receivers, going to be hard to trust. Next up, Minnesota at Chicago. Minnesota gets the win 30-27. Aaron Jones owners, don't worry. Not looking like he's going to lose that bell cow responsibility, that role that he has. Cam Akers is not coming in and taking his carries, even with that fumble that he had in the red zone. Had a great game, found himself in the end zone. Aaron Jones, you got to be happy as an Aaron Jones owner. And then Caleb Williams, we got to talk about him. Caleb Williams led all QBs in attempts, completions, and passing yards with 0 interceptions. It's not the sexiest start, but as Caleb Williams is growing confidence, and with the change in the offensive coordinator, I think he gets a spot start. Some of those throws that he had when he was running out towards the sidelines in a perfect dot to Roschon Johnson, to DeAndre Swift, that was amazing to see. Next game that I want to talk about, Tennessee at Houston. Dude, back-to-back games. Westbrook Ikine with long touchdowns. I think the last game was 98 yards. This one's like a 60-yarder bomb from Will Levis. Guy you need to keep on your radar. Ridley's solid flex play. He's showing that he's consistent. He's going to get the targets and get the yards. We would love to see him in the end zone, but Westbrook Ikine kind of took that away from him, unfortunately. Mixon had an uncharacteristic game. Kind of just chalk that up. Don't worry about that. And Nico Mother-Lovin Collins, man. He missed 4 games on IR and is still in pace for over 1,200 yards. Can you imagine how amazing your team would have been if Nico Collins was playing all throughout, didn't miss those 4 games, right? He gets injured from a hamstring injury that was from a long touchdown that he got. It's a really unfortunate to see, but really good to see for Nico Collins coming back and still just taking over, and there was a touchdown again this week that got called back because of illegal motion. If you remember the first game that Nico Collins came back from, illegal movement, whatever you want to call it, some stupid laundry that we got. And Nico Collins' touchdown gets called back. And again, we have the same nonsense, right? So could have had a big Nico Collins day. We didn't get that. We were fine with what we got. It was nice to see Nico Collins back in the limelight and getting points to our fantasy teams. And Pollard, no Tajay Spears, who's expected to be back next week. Low-key, Tony Pollard is on pace for a career-high 236 yards this season. He finished 3rd this week in rushing yards, so that may regress. He saw about over 80% of playing time with no Tyjae Spears, and with Tyjae Spears, that might get down a little bit to like 65%. I don't know how realistic it is that he actually does well week in, week out, but he had a big day last game. So if Tyjae is not in the picture, that's good for Tony Pollard, but he's probably in the picture. So I'm not taking that to account here. Next up, Detroit at Indianapolis Colts. The Detroit demolished 24-6. Big thing to monitor in this game. David Montgomery has a shoulder injury. Need to look out for that because that's great for Gibbs owners. And if he's supposed to play, he said he would play. But if he doesn't play, Craig Reynolds would probably take his place if it's a no-go. But I think that this just benefits Gibbs owners the most. But chances are, it looks like all signs are pointing towards Montgomery playing this week. New England at Miami. Miami wins 34-15. It was a big Waddle day. It was a big Tua day. Jonnu Smith continues to be productive, records a touchdown. He's seeing 89% of the reps on 12 personnel snaps. So you're seeing the shift of Miami leaning on Jonnu Smith. There are plays where I think he even had a carry that he was running the ball. So they like what they can get from Jonnu Smith, and he's producing them in a big way. So great tight end option week in, week out. Achane finds the red zone, end zone twice this week. Classic Achane stuff. One thing to monitor from the Patriots side is that Gibson sees more playing time than Ramondre. Ramondre wasn't efficient, and you have Gibson coming in. Just stay away from that backfield. Ramondre, what are you going to do, right? Coach says that he's not going to play, and he's not going to get a lot of playing time. He ends up doing great for you. You put him on the bench, you start him, and he gives you this terrible performance that he did. So Patriots suck. So take that with what you can and try to stay away from Stevenson if possible. Tampa Bay at New York Giants. Tampa Bay wins 30-7. Bucky Irving. Is he a league winner, guys? Is Bucky Irving? And we have Rashad White, right? What does he do? He's a pass catching running back. But this game, 5 catches for Bucky Irving 6 targets for Bucky Irving as opposed to 1 for White. So are we seeing a shift? Are we seeing Bucky Irving potentially being a league winner to end the season like towards the? I mean, what's going on here? I mean, we all saw it, right? We all look at Bucky Irving like that guy's more efficient. He's a guy that should be there. Chad is also there. And it seems like there's a world where both of these guys, kind of like this Monty and Gibbs situation, both of them could start. But I think Bucky Irving in your lineup every game, every week, got to go in there. He's just got to be there. So yeah, great signs for Bucky Irving. On the other side of things is for the Giants running back situation. Singletary gets more playing time than Tyrone Tracy, a guy who Tyrone Tracy was coming up, and we thought there was good signs of him, especially when back when Giants were like a formidable offense, right? Where Neighbors was being productive. We saw Tyrone Tracy also having good fantasy weeks, but now that Singletary is coming in, there's just been a lot of change, quarterback change, and now a running back change for Singletary. So not good signs for Tyrone Tracy. Things something to consider. And then Malik Neighbors, what do you do with this guy, right? He sees 9 targets in the second half, which is good, but the situation in New York with Tommy DeVito as a quarterback, it's just not looking good. And you probably still start Malik Neighbors. I would say you start Neighbors as a flex option, but as that alpha receiver that you were expecting from this team, he's not giving you that. Unfortunate to see for Malik Neighbors. I think you got to keep starting him, honestly. I think that there's going to be better signs, especially when he was on he was in the press conference and just saying, hey, it's not the quarterback. I don't know what it is. It's not the quarterback. Probably means it's the coach. Vrabel's probably going to be the new coach there or something. Someone else is going to take over next year. Dallas at Washington. Dallas wins 34-26. Nail biter performance is incredible. I mean, the kicker. I mean, how is he still on this team? He missed 2 extra points. You got to make the extra point, man. Your team just tied the game, right? And you missed the extra point, and yet there was still a chance because Dallas decides to get a touchdown on an onside kick to make it an 8-point game. It was just a shit show. But man, big Daniels day, big Terry McLaurin day. It seemed to all come pretty much in the fourth quarter. So that was good to see for Daniels owners. Rico Dowdle see more playing time, which makes him a fantasy starter. Elliott is not taking over that backfield. They tried to put Dalvin Cook in here and there, but it looks like Rico Dowdle is going to get majority of the snaps there. Shoemaker has 3 catches and a touchdown with no Ferguson in the lineup. Ferguson is dealing with concussion. He may not play Thursday and Thanksgiving. So if he doesn't play against the Giants, you got to put Shoemaker. You got to make sure you have him and start him on your lineup. And very big news, Eckler and Robinson dealing with injuries, which Jeremy Nichols is a waiver wire target. We talk about waiver wire target. Stay tuned at the end. I will give you all the players that you need to go out and grab. But if Brian Robinson or Eckler do not suit up, Jeremy McNichols becomes a priority waiver wire pickup this week. And look out for Commanders. They recently Commanders signing Chris Rodriguez. They released him, but they may sign him again due to these injuries with Brian Robinson and Eckler. So be on the lookout for that. All right, next up. Denver at Raiders. Denver ends up winning 29-19, and 31-year Amir Abdullah gets the backfield duties of Madison and Zamir White out. Not efficient running game, but he saw passing downs and he got a touchdown. All right. You love to see that. He's a waiver wire ad. They're playing against Kansas City. Raiders might be down, so a lot of passing down opportunities for Abdullah. Vele gets 80 yards on 9 targets. The people who put Vele in your lineups, kudos to you. I know it was bye week, so you probably had to. Shout out to all of those people that put Vele in your lineups this week and succeeded and were able to win the league. Win the week. Sorry, not the league. Win the week. So congratulations to you guys. And then Will Lutz with 22 fantasy points, which would rank as RB5 for the week. That is incredible. All right. Next up, we've got San Francisco at Green Bay. Final score there, San Francisco ends up losing 10-38. Biggest thing there, Dobbs dealing with the injury that makes the Dontavian Wicks an interesting pickup against Miami. And then Josh Jacobs, 3 touchdowns, amazing fantasy performance there. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Jennings, with this new quarterback situation, you don't like what you see there. So hopefully next week they can be better. All right. Arizona at Seattle. Seattle wins 16-6. Wasn't a big day for Connor, but no issues, with the playing time. So you've got to continue to put him in your lineup. Benson's not coming in, or Demercado's not coming in, taking over his carries. So Connor's a beast, man. And the game just wasn't a good rushing game for Arizona against Seattle, but he'll probably bounce back next week. Next up, we've got Philadelphia at Los Angeles. Philadelphia wins that game 37-20. Man, not a lot to talk about. Anything new in terms of fantasy in that game. Saquon had an MVP-like game, and amazing to see Saquon in MVP conversations after being in a terrible team in the Giants. He looks like he's just having a good time, right? He looks like he's having fun in Philadelphia. Good for them. That's a team that likes to run the ball. AJ Brown is doing really well as well. The only thing I would add as far as this game goes, Puka's the stud, Cooper Kupp's stud, and so Kyren Williams, probably not the best game, but he'll bounce back and he'll be all right. All right, next up, last game, Baltimore at Chargers. Man, was that a game? 30-23, Baltimore ends up winning, and we talk about a team that likes to run the ball. That is the Baltimore Ravens. King Henry, also in MVP conversations, man, had over 100 yards. Lamar Jackson balled out and threw touchdown passes. Mark Andrews, the return man, the second half fantasy year has been amazing for Mark Andrews. Gets a touchdown. Seems to build that trust with Lamar Jackson. Biggest news here, J.K. Dobbins got injured. Gus Edwards becomes a waiver wire pickup along with shiny new Kamani Vidal, right? Which one of those guys is going to end up get the majority share of backfield work for this Charger team? Either one of those guys should be a guy that you need to target on your waiver wire. And with that being said, let's jump right into the most important part of this episode, waiver wire watch list. All right, first up, we've got quarterbacks. First off, we've got Will Levis. He has a really good schedule coming up with Washington, Jacksonville, Cincinnati, Indianapolis, and Jacksonville again. So this offense is gelling really well. Ridley's getting targets. Westbrook Kine, we saw Tony Pollard, Tyjae Spears coming back as well. So I like where this offense is headed, and Will Levis is a guy that you can stream on a week in, week out basis, especially with that matchup. Caleb Williams, all right, is another guy that you need to look out for and potentially target if you're thin on quarterbacks. 285.5 yards average last 2 games, gets a touchdown each of the games, and 51.5 rushing yards. That rushing upside is still there, and you're seeing the confidence grow in Caleb Williams. He's a spot starter as well. Running backs, I've got 3 running backs, 4 really, for you to look out for. Amir Abdullah. If there's no Zamir White, Alexander Madison, then he can be in your lineup as a starter against the Kansas City Chiefs. Jeremy McNichols for Washington. He's a red zone threat. And like I said, due to injuries, no Brian Robinson, no Eckler. That's a guy you need to target on your waiver wire. And then last but not least, in running backs, I've got Gus Edwards and Kamani Vidal. I think that Gus Edwards will get more workload early on, but Kamani Vidal is a guy that you need to also have, and he could be a potential league winner, a rookie running back, and is a guy that you could command most of that workload. But Gus Edwards has been there, so he might be the guy that gets it. But either one of those guys needs to be targeted on waiver wire this week. Wide receivers, we have Nick Westbrook-Ikhine, 6 touchdowns in the last 7 games. The Titans offense is rolling. Devon Vele, wide receiver 2 for the Broncos. We saw the targets, we saw the yards last game. Hopefully that continues. Bo Nix is a formidable quarterback, so he does get to his receiving threats. Cortland Sutton and Devon Vele at the wide receiver 2 position, so he's a flex play as well. And David Moore for Carolina Panthers, who saw 10 targets. It could be David Moore or Adam Thielen, either one of those guys. If you're desperate, go ahead and make sure you can target those guys. And then Keon Coleman is still there in free agency. Make sure to pick him up as well, because with this Bills offense coming off a bye week, he's coming off an injury. With Amari Cooper in the mix, you've got a little bit more of a, you open up the field more. And Keon Coleman, when he was playing, saw production, was getting the touchdowns that you wanted to see and getting targets as well. So Keon Coleman is a guy that you can make sure to grab if he's on free agency. Tight end, Noah Gray, back-to-back touchdowns. Make sure to grab him. And Zach Ertz, he's finished as tight end 1 in 7 weeks. And last week he had 38 yards and a touchdown. So he's a safety blanket for Jaden Daniels. So make sure to get Zach Ertz if he's still there. And then the defense and special teams. So we've got Bucks versus Carolina, Cowboys versus Giants, and Colts versus New England are all great pickups for this week. Wow. That's the episode, guys. That's it. Thank you. Appreciate it. We'll have the whole crew here on the next week's podcast. Let's get some wins. If you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out on Twitter. If I missed anything else that I should talk about, please give us the feedback. Would be greatly appreciated. All right. Until next time, guys. Later.